Good evening. Welcome to this Lompoc City Council meeting. Our report of action from closed session is that we took no reportable action because it was a discussion with the city administrator on his job performance over the past year. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Lingle.
Here.
Councilmember Costa.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dwayne Holmdahl.
Here.
Mayor John Lynn.
Here. Okay, and this evening for our invocation, we'll have Pastor Gilbert Stones. Pastor?
God of the universe, we specially think of you at this time of year, when people of many diverse faiths celebrate festivals of light and love and peace. For you are the source of light and love and life itself. Send the light of your wisdom to all in this place, especially upon our city council and our new mayor. O God, who are also the source of justice, grant that all the deliberations of this evening may be made with eyes and hearts open to all, so that equity and compassion may be the hallmark and crown of our city and its leaders. Amen.
Amen. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'm first up and I'm looking for it. Yeah. There we go. So this started out to be a briefing on the projects that we have going on, and then became agendized for something just slightly longer. So I'm going to take you back just a little further to how this council began in 2011, and I would describe the progress going forward in our economic development efforts in phases. And phase one was in 2011, when this council reestablished the position of Assistant City Administrator and Economic Development Director, which Laurel Barcelona filled with Teresa in September of that year, and has done an outstanding job going forward. In March, our graffiti abatement program began, and within 6 months transformed Lompoc from the look of a crime wave back to a beautiful small town. In April, the council selected Broadspec to operate our building department with the written guarantee of service and a slogan of facilitate, not complicate projects. Next, Laurel and Beth completed our Charter of Excellence program to deliver great customer service in all departments at all levels. And these changes dramatically changed the culture of the city of Lompoc into a service-oriented, business-friendly city. The results were immediate. In the bottom of a recession, Pacific Coast RV opened a second location in Lompoc. Sweet Repeats opened their first portion of their new facility downtown. Construction resumed with a new builder on the Briar Creek housing project. And in September, Steve Zodovich purchased the former Grefco property and began converting the existing 72,000 square foot building into wineries and wine storage. Each of these new businesses was monitored and helped through the city process constantly by the city administrator, the mayor, and the council. The economic development director and the mayor also helped Caros and the landlord reach an agreement, which unfortunately only lasted a year but gave a bunch of people their jobs for one more year. Phase two began in 2012. We were picked by a number of retailers to fill vacant store buildings. In September, Marshall's opened, and in December, Grocery Outlet. Many other stores began the process in 2012. that resulted in 2013 openings. In early 2012, it was clear to the city administrator and myself that the rapid expansion of the wine industry in Lompoc had filled almost all the vacant industrial buildings. This led to an effort by myself to open a discussion with the Megalic Group, owners of a 40-acre industrial zone parcel at Central and V Street. Because of a very bad prior experience with the city of Lompoc, it was difficult to get them interested. Ultimately, they came to Lompoc and they met with the city administrator and myself and learned about our new business-friendly community and began moving the project forward. Our businesses that began working on projects in 2012 included Denmat, Epic Cooling, Rocketown Chrysler, Dollar General, and a number of others. In 2013, the last large vacant stores were filled in Lompoc with the opening of Dollar General, Fala's, and Applebee's. Papa John's opened in a building vacant for over 25 years. SpaceX began launches, and the Hancock College Public Safety Training Facility opened. Walmart expanded, and home sales began at the Laurel Crossing development. Rocketown Chrysler completed entitlement, construction, and opened 1 year to the day from the conversation I had with the Chrysler rep. And when we had that conversation, they said it would never happen. But we got it done. Staff, council, everybody worked on it. Epic Cooling completed entitlement and construction and opened 1 year after the project began in time for the harvest, which was their objective. And the 40-acre industrial park began to move forward through design alternatives. In 2014, the Mervyn's building, which had been tied up in bankruptcy since 2008, was sold, and we began marketing it nationwide to prospective retailers. 5 new wine tasting rooms were completed at the Santa Rita Hills Wine Center, and 2 have been occupied. Barnstormers Aero Services completed their new hangar at the airport and is offering pilot training and aerial tours. On the housing side, 2 long-standing issues with the Burton Ranch project up at the Y were cleared, and a preconceptual review meeting was held for 2 parcels in the Bailey Corridor. The Champion Center, a project of the Lompoc District Hospital, was repurposed, and the old hospital opened, providing services for police, fire, and military personnel. Hancock College began the first classes with the Petroleum Education Council to bring industry safety training to Lompoc. With the businesses that opened in 2014, 2013, and 2012, over 1,200 new jobs have been created in Lompoc. With many new businesses and tourists in Lompoc, hotels also had an all-time record year, which benefited restaurants and retail stores. In 2014, what I would call Phase 4 began. And those are the projects that we have now working their way forward that will begin next year. So next year, in January, we'll have the following openings. In March of 2015, the staff and the mayor resolved parking questions for the Native Tongues Boutique and Lounge at 112 North E Street. The Wine Lounge and Boutique is presently preparing to open. Then, I'm probably going to say it wrong. I think it's Nika Fish Enterprise Seafood and Steakhouse, located in the former Red Zone at 821 North H Street, began work with staff in November of 2013. They purchased the building and have completed a remodel. They will serve fresh fish, steaks, as well as selling fresh fish retail. In August of 2014, the Chamber of Commerce chairman brought a Central Coast retail chain looking for a new location to the mayor. They were provided with a packet of information on business-friendly Lompoc, and a short list of suitable vacant stores was created. They selected one. I introduced them to the building owner, and a lease was soon signed. Remodeling is underway with a January opening on the building at Laurel and H Street. Beginning in 2013, I worked with a group of Lompoc motels and hotels to form the Lompoc Tourism Improvement District. The hotel owners fronted all the expenses for starting the district, and in December of 2013, this council voted unanimously to begin the Lompoc Tourism Improvement District. The district has now completed their formation, and they have completed their marketing plan. They will expect to launch their marketing plan and have their grand opening in late January or early February of next year. In total, motels and hotels in Lompoc have generated increased income because of the Hancock College Public Safety Training Facility, the wine industry, increased activity at Vandenberg, and the efforts of the Tourism Improvement District going forward. In total, this should add between $2 and $3 million in revenue to the City of Lompoc in the 15-17 city budget, which we sorely need. In January of 2014, the Planning Commissioner Jack Rodenhigh brought Pat Kerrigan of the Wine Country Airlines to City Hall to explore the possibility of commuter air service from Lompoc. I introduced Pat to Hancock College, the Petroleum Education Council, the Chumash Casino, and others that could benefit from the service. Over the course of the year, the staff and I have worked on the agreement that the council will consider tonight. The airline and the city are remodeling the terminal at Lompoc Airport now in preparation for the start of service. Initially, the airport will connect us to Long Beach and Bakersfield, with other destinations being considered. Ticket sales will begin in late December, with service to starting in January. The flight time is 30 to 50 minutes, depending on the destination. In February of 14, the first conceived in August of 2008 Riverbend Bicycle Park, which is being funded and constructed by the Lompoc Valley Parks Recreation and Pool Foundation, should be completed. This 4-track park offers all levels of rider experience, and it is unique in California because it has 4 different tracks, while most facilities have only 1 or 2. These tracks are designed by Hillride Progressive Professional Development and cover all skill levels, including semi-professional and professional riders. These riders travel the western United States coming to facilities, so we look forward to them in our hotels and restaurants. Also in February, the Petroleum Education Oil Safety Training Program has been expanded and will begin at Hancock College. Originally conceived of as a 1-day program, it will now be a 2-day program for all of the oil industry folks in the western United States. That means that each of these people will spend 1 night in a hotel in Lompoc, and 80% of them will spend 2 nights. The Tourism Improvement District has created a website to help them. In March of 2014, the compressed natural gas fueling station being constructed by the Lompoc Unified School District with a state grant funds began the process in August of 2012. Working with staff and the mayor, the environmental review was completed in a very tight timeline to turn the grant application, which was successful. Since then, the original design has been amended to accommodate larger buses. This required a right-of-way swap between the district and the city, which was completed. Natural gas fuel prices are between $1.75 and $2.20 per gallon, equivalent to gasoline, and have about a 45% less emissions. In April of 2014, a mid-sized Central Coast business retail store will open its second location in Lompoc. This store will offer products and services not available in Lompoc or surrounding communities. Even more exciting, in April, the long-awaited Solvang Brewery and Restaurant at the long-closed auto dealership at Chestnut and H Street will offer both inside and outside seating in a comfortable environment for the whole family. In July of 2013, the mayor of Solvang was kind enough to introduce them to me, and we have been working with them diligently ever since. They were looking for a second location, and they were unable to find one in any other surrounding community. July of 2014 is tentatively scheduled for the entitlement of the new 40-acre industrial park that I described earlier. It will, at build-out, have 800,000 square feet of buildings and will employ between 700 and 3,000 people. After entitlement, individual buildings can begin to be built through about a 12-month process. In November of 2014, the Motorsports Park, envisioned clear back in 2008, which is in for its environmental review, should be completed. The motocross track construction is fully funded by a state parks grant and through the city and matching volunteer labor and materials through the foundation. In September of 2016, begun in September of 2013, 2 new restaurants are now in the preliminary review for a vacant site and should complete the entitlement process by then. In June of 2016, way back in 2003, entitlement began on some parcels along the Bailey corridor. And those projects are now beginning the planning process and should be entitled by June of 2016. First discussion began in 2012 to revive the Hilton Garden Inn project at Barton and H Street. In 2014, ownership changed and the project began to move forward again. In July, first building plans were submitted and discussion began to regain the entitlements that expired on the project back in 2008. Planning submissions should be received in December of this year and should be completed by June of 2016. I'm sorry, by March of 2015, with an opening in June of 2016. This 4-star hotel features 135 rooms, restaurants, cocktail lounge, and 4,000 feet of meeting space. Councilmember Holmdahl initiated a second round of discussions with the Ayers Hotel Group in July of 2013. The lack of a sewer line to the site and stormwater issues stalled the project until 2014. In July, I worked with the staff and found an alternative solution to these key issues, and the city administrator created a shared sewer agreement for the 4 unserved parcels in and around the old Grefco property. Final minor changes to the sewer line agreement approved by this council are nearly completed. When the project enters the entitlement process in January, it will need an amendment to the prior hotel site approval to expand from 58 to 110 rooms. Opening of this hotel is anticipated to be October of 2016. So we have a very substantial book of work going forward now. But to maintain a list of projects of this size, new businesses must constantly be added to the list. It's taken 4 years to build this momentum. Always remember, you don't pick the businesses that come to Lompoc. They pick you. And everyone here can be a valuable part of bringing those businesses in. As I went through this list, I named a number of local people who helped bring a business to Lompoc. So if you have an opportunity, bring them to the mayor, make it happen. Thank you for your time. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 3 quick items to touch on. First of all, I'm going to ask Joanne Plummer to come on up and share some good news that we have to share. Oh, that would be good news.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, members of the audience, and members at home. As you know, in collaboration with the Lompoc Valley Community Healthcare Organization, the Arts Council, the Chamber of Commerce, and a few others, we applied for a grant with the Santa Barbara Foundation for the Creative Crosswalks projects a few months ago. The grant was a Creative Communities grant focusing on innovative ideas and approaches that grow creative communities throughout the county for projects taking a fresh approach to strengthen the arts and culture sector. The Santa Barbara Foundation received 12 applications and only funded 4 projects, all in distinct areas of our county. Tonight, I'm here to share with you that our project received funding and is the only recipient in Lompoc. While we requested monies to fund 3 different areas, we were approved for a pilot project in the amount of $30,000, and we will be moving forward with the 4-way crosswalk at Cypress and H Street. 4-way crosswalks, I guess I should say. The group wanted to make sure to share this very exciting news with you, and I'm honored to be the one to spill the beans. More details about the project will be unfolding in the coming months, but we're moving forward, and we are very excited and just had to share it.
Outstanding.
Thank you. I am excited about that, too, and I'm looking forward to the creative process that's coming on now, and I think it's just fun. So anyway, glad we were able to share that. Second item I wanted to cover was the upcoming meeting on January 6th, and I had touched on this before, but maybe try to get some more resolution on this. We are planned currently, our regular meeting would be on January 6th, and Member Holmdahl is not going to be available. That first meeting in January is kind of critical for us because it's a combined meeting with the Public Safety Committee as well as addressing some substantive issues. So what I was trying to pin down here is whether the pleasure of the council is to do that on the 6th with Member Holmdahl calling in, or on the 13th as a special meeting, basically move the meeting a week rather than having it on the 6th, have it on the 13th, and I was trying to get a read of the pleasure of the council.
City Administrator, several of us will be at League of California Cities in Sacramento, starting the 13th.
Starting the 13th. Well, then, Member Holmdahl, will you be able to telephone in, and would we be able to connect you by phone? And we'll handle the procedures necessary for your posting at your location up in Northern California and your availability. We'll go over that with you. If you can make yourself... Right, that would be on the 6th if you'd make yourself available. And my request to the two chiefs is to coordinate that with the Public Safety Commission and let them know that we'll be going forward on the 6th. Good. Finally, the third item, I just wanted to give an update that we have begun our budget process within staff. And some members of the public know and some may not know that it's a rather lengthy and involved process. You know, it's a fairly large and diverse business operation that we have here, and so it takes quite a process to get through not only our building of the budget and our but ultimately the presentation, your deliberations, and ultimate adoption and work on the budget as well. So we are underway at that, and I just wanted to give a heads up because we're taking a little bit different approach, and I think we're all going through a little bit of growing pains on a different approach we're taking, but I wanted to give you just a brief report on that. In the past, we've done budgeting, what I would call budgeting by exception. We would carry forward a previous budget, and then if we had changes that we were making, we were really focusing on the changes from what had been the previous budget to what the new adjustment was. And our approach this year is going to be a little bit different. We aren't necessarily starting with any assumptions in providing services or programs. It's called zero-based budgeting, if you've heard what that is. And so it's sort of as though we're taking and erasing the board and starting from zero, and that we're looking at each program, and we need to justify each program based upon what that workload is, what our efficiencies and performance metrics are, and to derive at what the resources are to carry forward those various programs. So that means we need to identify workloads in every service, understand what those performance metrics are. It's really taking a business build approach as though it's almost like you could say, maybe this is the first time we're being a city and we're going to start and analyze each thing that we're doing, make sure we're doing it for a purpose and for good, and then figuring out how we go about building the budget for each of those. So I think it does us good for having a very defensible budget, one that we can better, more maybe easily explain to the public. It does mean some extra work, or at least a different approach to how we do it as staff, and that's why I'm saying we're going to have a little bit of growing pains in this process, but we're going to be vigilant in doing that and delivering this budget on time and delivering a balanced budget, and bringing to you part and parcel of this is we may have to bring to you some options that if we recognize all the expectations on what service standards are and the areas we want to provide services, we may or may not have yet enough resources to address everything, but at least we'll be able to bring the business case for what the options are and to hear what your priorities are and how we make final selections in that process. So anyway, I just wanted to give you the update on that. We have started. It's a little bit different approach, but the takeaways are this is zero-based, it's built by workload and productivity, and the other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to back off. Our budgets are known for having some pretty long narratives. We're going to try to change that to more of an executive summary that has bullet points, graphs, information that you can more easily glean at a glance. So just wanted to give you the update on that, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I should have done this before. I have a letter I need to read in from the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments. It's a notice to this council. At its November 19th, 2014 meeting, the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, SBCAG, Board of Directors approved an amendment to the Santa Barbara County Local Transportation Authority Measure A Ordinance Number 5 to add the Highway 246 Streetscape and Sidewalk Improvement Project to a list of projects in the investment plan that are eligible for Measure A funding. The amendment also allocated $250,000 to the project from Measure A cost savings realized on other projects in the investment plan's North County subregional program. So we had cost savings from the Union Valley Parkway, from the Union Valley Extension, and from the Santa Maria River Bridge. Those cost savings were brought to the subregional board, and the subregional board selected a number of projects. Some were acceleration of other projects. Some were putting more money in. $1 million. One was put into the 246 passing lanes because they were short. And the City of Buellton made a request for this project. So pursuant to the California Public Utilities Code Section 180207, SBCAG will notify the Board of Supervisors and the City Council of each city in the county of any Measure A ordinance amendment. Furthermore, SBCAG is also notifying the Board of Directors of the Santa Barbara Metropolitan Transit District and the State Board of Equalization. And this is the important part. Unless appealed by any policy body of a notified agency, the amendment will take effect 45 days from the date of this notice. And on behalf of the City of Lompoc, I voted in favor of that. And it was a division of those surplus funds. Again, money went to the 246 passing lane for Lompoc. The money for Buellton was a $250,000, and the City of Buellton put in a $250,000 match. And then there was a bicycle bridge in Solvang, and the City of Solvang put in a match for that. So it was just sharing the cost savings which we saw during the downturn when bids came in about 20% below what they had been estimated. So good news. Are there any questions from the council on that? Okay. Now we're going to have public comment on the consent calendar only. So if you want to talk about items 1 through 6, nope, 5, 1 through 5, this is your moment in time. Anybody want to talk to us about a consent calendar item? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, back to council. So on the consent calendar, we have approval of the minutes of the Lompoc City Council regular meeting of 10/21 and 11/18/2014. We have approval of expenditures, a payroll voucher for $1.1 million, a voucher register for $810,000, a voucher register for $650,000, and I will not vote on check number 32308 for $356.97 payable to Lompoc Lock and Safe. We will adopt resolution number 595714 certifying the results of the consolidated general election held in Lompoc on November 14th. November 4th, 2014. We will have the award of the contract to purchase the bookmobile, and we will have a lease agreement with Wine Country Airlines, which is for the terminal at the airport. For purposes of discussion, I want to pull item number 4 just to talk about one issue. Is there anybody else that would like to, and we're going to go straight to that, so is there another item someone would like to pull off? Nope. Okay.
If I could, just to make a clarification, not to pull on number 5, but just clarification that that is an approval subject to some continued negotiations. So you've got to form of the agreement, and we've got to wrap up some negotiations with that. Thanks.
Similar to what we're doing with the sewer line agreement and pulling out a typo that's in it. Okay, with regard to the award of the contract for the purchase of the bookmobile, I was just going to talk about this and see if we could have everybody felt about it. We can vote on the rest. Okay, so I'd accept a motion for items 1, 2, 3, and 5.
I'll move the motion on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And a second.
I'll second.
And any discussion on that? Could we vote, please? And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, with regard to item 5, I'm surely in favor of purchasing the bookmobile, don't get me wrong. Back in 2006, this prior council allocated funds from the CDBG funds, and at that time, the objective of putting in both CDBG funds and RDA funds was to put some skin of the city of Lompoc in the game to attract other funds, and back then we were trying to build the actual brick and mortar building. Since then, obviously, things have changed. The brick and mortar building is no longer on the table. A lot of other funds have come in, and I would direct the council to page 4 of 5 of the award of contract on item number 4. On that item, if you look up at the project funding summary, we have $133,000 received from the Benton Trust. We have $285,000 received from the Lompoc Library Foundation, and we have $174,000 in library impact fees. In total, that comes to almost $600,000. As we sit here today, the bookmobile is going to be about $294,000, and I asked Jessica by email the other day what she thought the contents would be. That's another $100,000. And then there's the construction of the pad, which is in the $50,000 range. So in total, there's about $450,000 needed to get the bookmobile rolling. And those first 3 items come to $592,000, so there's substantially more money than is needed at this point. In addition, the library has about $300,000 in reserve funds currently. So what I'm proposing is that CDBG money, which was program income, that was budgeted in 2006 originally, would be withdrawn from this and brought back into the CDBG fund, because this council has repeatedly looked for a way to fund some handicapped restrooms. And by my best guess, talking with the city administrator, this would probably fund about 3. And rather than have it sit in another account for another 5 or 6 years, we could get it out there and put it to work, since there's more than adequate funds for the bookmobile. Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. Does our library director have any comments about what the plan for the funds were? And primarily my question is ongoing maintenance, understanding that there probably is a large maintenance fee, if that was intended for any ongoing maintenance.
Good evening. The CDBG money was and is to be used for the site improvements on South I Street, which have not really been planned out yet. So the cost of those is undetermined. The impact fees were always last on our list to be used, because there are other opportunities to use them at the main library, and that was always in discussion with the former library director, Ashley Chavez, and our plans to bring more automation into the library using that money. So are there any other specific questions, or does that answer?
I think that answered my question.
Okay.
What's the time frame for site improvements?
I am working on submitting the application for those monies currently to the department. I guess there was never an application put in 2010 when the monies were allotted. And I'm hoping that the site improvements kind of go along with the bookmobile, so that when the bookmobile rolls out, the site improvements will already be done. And the first step in that is talking with city departments such as Public Works and planning and determining the best options for moving forward. And that's already begun.
And so do you feel like any part of that $250,000 could be reallocated, or do you feel that there's a need for that entire budget?
Well, I feel that because that money is needed, and looking at just that money being CDBG and the prevailing wages that we'll have to pay in using that money, we'll need all of it to do what we need to do, I think. So.
Okay, thank you.
I guess my response to that would be, I would surely rather have some handicapped restrooms in parks where we've struggled forever to provide reasonable accommodation for people, and replace our worn and torn restrooms with some ones that could be used on a regular basis. And then if in fact it turns out to be $250,000, I'm not sure that's the best investment, and if it is, the library has $300,000 in reserves that could be spent for that purpose. But you couldn't spend library reserves on a restroom.
I'm not sure if it is a fiscally responsible thing to use reserves for a cost like this. I can see what you're saying, divert some of these funds for that use. I guess I just don't have enough information to know concretely what the cost is that the library needs and what the cost is for the restrooms and those needs. I don't necessarily disagree in concept, I just don't have enough information at this point.
And currently, the discussion of the reserves and how to use those moving forward with our transition into hopefully becoming a city department, that is under discussion with the Library Board of Trustees and City Administration, and the library itself has needs beyond that $300,000. And looking at the capital improvement projects, we have the carpeting alone in the library would take most of that money.
Maybe you could talk about what those improvements on the I Street property would be.
Well, it's planned to be a place where it's a stop on the bookmobile. It's going to be used as programming. Currently, we have summer reading programs that have hundreds of kids show up, and sometimes we have to turn them away. So in that 1 mile radius of that property are nearly 10,000 low to mid-income people who live there. So that spot is where, Charlotte wanted to serve that community. So we're looking to have a stage and educational opportunities and just really have a place for children to come and learn and explore. And that's the purpose of that property.
Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see Barbara Holt there, and I believe Barbara sits or helps oversee the Benton Trust. Did you have some comments on this?
I'm sure, as most of you are aware, I am one of the trustees of the Benton Trust, and part of the reason that we, went with the bookmobile, realizing that in today's society we weren't going to get the brick and mortar building. One of the things, and Charlotte Benton did leave all of the monies and the property to the city, and it's been held in trust for over 15 years now for this to go on. And part of it is she wants that location. She wanted it at her home. The home was destroyed because it couldn't meet the qualifications for it. And now you want to say, no, you don't want to put the monies into the property there to make it up to par so that you can have it. I think the basis behind it was they want kind of like a garden area where the children can go out and sit and enjoy it. It isn't just a place for the bookmobile to be parked, but it's also, interaction within that. It's very close to the museum. So I think, pull that money from the actual site. I don't know how to put this. I was not prepared to say anything tonight. But in material, I would hate for you to pull that money out of there, because her dream was to have it at her home on South I Street, and it's not going to be there continually, but at least we can do is make the project go forward.
Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Thank you for the clarification. We hadn't had much information in regards to what that site was going to look like. Mostly what we had heard of was the concrete pad. So now that I understand and am clarified, I think that that's extremely exciting, that it'll be a space for children, not just a parking place for the mobile. I would not be in favor of diverting the funds. Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck.
I'll just make the comment here that, this is the city's skin in the game, and I think that we should go ahead and just retain the project funding as it is.
Is that a motion?
I will make it a motion.
And I'll second.
We had public comment before. Okay. And is there any further discussion? Could we vote, please? And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, I think this is the moment of switch. Dwayne, it's your moment. Yeah. We're going over there.
Actually, I want to present you with an award. That's a beautiful plaque to put on the wall. Now, another one to put on your wall, but for the excellent job you've done for the last 4 years, but also going into what you're going to be doing now at the hospital and working with people. Everybody's very pleased to have you there, and I think, well, this is a beautiful plaque. I think I'll rip that off and keep it. You want to make a comment? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Dwayne. I've just have some really brief remarks. Just to start, thank you. I have to thank everyone, the council, of course, prior council member Martner, who I don't believe is here this evening, the staff, the public. That's the most important thing for me, is to thank everyone this evening. This has been an experience that has shaped me in many ways and will continue to shape me for the rest of my life. The public, the council, you've all really had a front row seat to an extremely formative time in my life, and it doesn't go unnoticed. It wasn't always easy for me, and I'm sure dealing with a 23-year-old wasn't always easy for all of you, but it was always worth it, and if I had to do it all over again, I would, without a doubt. I love Lompoc, and I'm so thankful to have had the opportunity to serve. I just want to leave you with a few quick thoughts. The first one, and make sure you're listening, Dwayne, the first one. From time to time, ask yourself, what would Ashley do? It'll be helpful, I promise. Yeah, WWAD, no. Grab a banana instead of a candy bar, of course, that's the obvious one. But also consider embracing technology, embracing change, and above all, be kind and listen. I hope you will be innovative and continue to push the envelope. And be bold. Please do not fear the tough issues, the tough questions, or the tough decisions. I'm proud of my performance over the last 4 years, and I'm excited for the next chapter of my life. Good luck with your future challenges, and thank you all for this honor.
Now, the next is going to be for John Lynn, but reading it's a gateway to the stars, and the town was incorporated in August 13th, 1888. Now, how many knew that in the audience? There's a couple. Good. We weren't here at that time. There very few were. And John's been on here for 4 years, and he listed all the things that the council has done with him being mayor, and I think it's been an excellent job. We got a lot of things done, a lot of things changed. As a person who's lived in this town since 1950, I've seen a lot of changes the last 4 years. Very proud of where Lompoc is going. I want to congratulate and thank John Lynn as being mayor for the last 4 years.
Okay, the last speech was a little long because the city administrator gave me a bigger assignment than I started out for. But what I want to do is thank all of you, because many of you have been important in moving Lompoc forward. As I said in the beginning of it, we started out with a city that was somewhat dysfunctional and not a very good place to open a business, and we are now known as the best place in Santa Barbara County, which isn't to say anyone got a free pass. Everybody followed the rules. But we worked it so that projects could move promptly through the process, and we've had great success with that. So many people in the public have helped, and I hope all of you will help Mayor Lingle go forward, because you are the bird dogs that find us the possibilities going forward. The day I came in, the city staff thought I was going to contract out the entire city and fire almost everybody. Hopefully they've learned as we've gone along that that wasn't the objective. The objective was to have great customer service and take care of our residents and those that wanted to open businesses here. And we have been exceptionally successful at that. So I'm particularly proud of what we have done, but we have all done it together. The council, the city administrators, all three of them that I have served with, and the public. We have a great deal to be proud of, and we are on a roll going forward. We're going to have a lot of fun going down the road from here, and I look forward to working with Bob to make these things happen and the rest of the council. So thank you all for helping. We appreciate it.
I guess I'm still mayor for 30 seconds, or what do we do there?
I think you're mayor right now. I know it. Yeah.
Could I ask Mr. Victor Vega to come forward? Bob Lingle, Dirk Starbuck, and your families. You want to bring your family up?
You do this in short phrases so I can remember, not whole paragraphs and sentences.
Okay. Mr. Vega, Mr. Starbuck, Mr. Lingle, please face me and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Bob Lingle,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will support the laws and policies
that I will support the laws and the policies
of the City of Lompoc,
of the City of Lompoc,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Please come sign your oaths for me.
And after that, we will have a short break.
Mr. Vega, will you come sign your oath for me, please? Right there.
I'm a lefty.
Thank you. I will give you the blue pen. Have you sign yours. They're right there.
This isn't a micro tip. Am I Stacy or Dirk?
Today you're Dirk.
I'm Dirk.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it
Congratulations.
short.
Okay, we're taking a break now?
I think you need to announce it.
Okay, we're taking a break. Everybody run for it.
Good.
Yeah. Good job.
Coffee, kid. Oh.
I'm not going to be reading, but I don't intend on taking. It was hard, believe me, in my 20s, like that.
Oh, yeah. Having this idea, but it's obvious that we need the money, not only for completing bookmobile projects, but buildings and other program support that we Thanks. I'm excited that we're finally getting the bookmobile going.
Don't say a word. Come on. Pass back.
You get it?
3.
Ah, it took a long time, Joey. You can only smile for so many hours. Hi, Rickus.
Patrick, you ready? Okay, I'd like to reconvene the Lompoc City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Victor Vega.
Here, present.
Councilmember Dirk Starbuck.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Dwayne Holmdahl.
Here.
Mayor Bob Lingle.
Here. The first business that we're going to do is we're going to appoint people to fill in the positions on commissions that Mayor John Lynn had served on. We're not going to do Ashley's. We're not going to do the commissions for Councilmember Ashley Costa. We're going to wait till the 5th seat is filled. So we'll just be talking this evening about the commissions that the mayor was on. Those commissions that he served on were Santa Barbara County of Government, SBCAG, and the Santa Barbara County Selection Committee. Those are traditionally held by the mayor. So unless there's any objections, I'd like to continue serving on those committees. Yeah, well, I'm going to wait for that, yeah. The question was, are we going to appoint an alternate? And there again, I'd like to wait till we have the 5th member seated before we do an alternate. So are there any objections to my serving? Okay, then I'll make a motion that I serve on SBCAG and the Santa Barbara County Selective Committee.
I'll second.
Yes, we do need to vote, yeah. So let's take a vote. Okay, and that passes 4-0. And the next discussion is we're going to have a presentation by our city administrator, the discussion of approval of the process to fill a midterm council vacancy.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, if you don't mind indulging me to do my presentation from this location rather than the podium, the city attorney and I are going to tag team this item a little one. It might be a little easier to work this from this position. As you know, we currently have a council seat that's vacant as a result of the remaining term by Mayor Lingle, and with the 2 years remaining on the seat that he has vacated as a result of his election. And with that, this council, this four-member council that we have now, has some options available to it on how you might want to approach filling the seat. And they basically are broken down into two areas. One is to have, you can call for an election, a special election for that, or you're able to handle an appointment. We're going to talk about some variations and options of those two main choices that you have. So if we can, I'd like to start with the election consideration or possibility for you to call for a special election. And as the report lays out, the Elections Code provides for your opportunity to call for that election, and that election is would be held the next regularly scheduled election date that is not less than 114 days after you make your decision to do an election. Now, to help you in making a determination if that's the way you'd like to approach this, there are some costs involved, and I had requested from the county elections office for them to provide a cost estimate as to what it would cost to provide that special election. And they were good enough to respond to me today with that information. And the information they provided me today was that a special election, ballot-style special election, normal balloting approach, if you will, the cost would be $166,000. And that's an estimate. That's not a guarantee of a price, but they're trying to assess that based upon their understandings of what normally would take place with an electorate of this size. I was also asked by the elections office initially, did I want an estimate for a ballot procedure or an all-mail ballot, like all by mail? And I said, well, I'd appreciate having both if we have that option. And they did provide an estimate for that, and that was at a reduced price at $74,000. But I believe the city attorney has some caveats about going the path of a mail-in ballot.
Thank you. If you do a mail-in ballot, there's more limitation on when you can do the mail-in ballot. And the earliest you could do it would be in August of 2015. So there'd be that time frame, and that's because the state law specifically says when all mail ballots are able to be put on the election date. So it's not the same. The June date that's in the staff report would be if it's a full-on election with booths and the whole thing. If it's an all-mail election, it would have to be in August of 2015.
Let me modify. I made a slight misspeak there. I said the mail ballot estimate was $74,000. The mail ballot estimate was actually $72,000. So $166,000 for a poll election, $72,000 for a mail ballot election. So the alternatives from that are you can call for one of those special elections, understanding compared to an appointment process, it is not only does it have some costs involved to a more expensive option, but you have time considerations as well, including particularly with the mail ballot, that really puts out how long you'd be operating as a 4-member council rather than a 5-member council. And I don't know whether it's your pleasure that you'd like to now hear about appointment possibilities, or if you'd like to render some discussion on the election component of it at this point.
City Minister, just a real quick question. Explain how we're required to appoint or have someone in the 5th seat, according to state law, within 60 days. How does 114 days, how does that change it?
Let's see if I can do this easily. The 60 days is by state law as to when you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to have an election or doing it by appointment. The 114 days runs from when you make that decision. If you're going to go to the election, then if you make the date, using an easy number, the 60th day is January 31st. So if you had your discussions and didn't decide until January 31st to make your decision, you count 114 days from there, and that's when you can't have the election before that 114 days if you do it by regular ballot with voting booths and that whole deal. If you decide to do an all-mail, then the 114 days doesn't really hinder you because you have to wait until August anyway, so you're well within the 114 days.
And just to expand slightly on that, the 60 days you have to decide is also the same 60 days you have to appoint. Those go concurrently. So what you do not have is 60 days to decide and then decide, okay, let's appoint, and then have 60 more days to appoint. That same upfront 60 days. In other words, how I would phrase it is to say, you either have to appoint in 60 days, or your decision will be, if you haven't already made it by then, is you will default to having a special election.
Okay, thank you. I want to bring it to the council right now. Do we want to, let's discuss first bring it to a special election or a mail-in ballot. Let's have some discussion on that if anyone is interested. Councilmember Humdahl.
I think by looking at both those, at the cost and time, we've got so much stuff on our agenda that we had to get done, and the total cost, we were talking about budget hearings earlier today, and then what's got to go in, what we need to get done. I think that looking at the cost, I think it'd be better if we went ahead and appointed somebody tonight.
tonight or go to just the appointment process? You want to try to appoint someone tonight? Okay, well, we can certainly attempt to do that. Councilmember Vega or Councilmember Starbuck, any comments on the election process?
I'll just mention that it's a whole lot more money than I initially thought it was going to be, and that is certainly going to sway my opinion on a special election and the time frame too. Going out to August is really ridiculous on a 2-year term.
Okay. Councilmember Vega.
Actually, I think the time frame also is it's too far away, so we need to look at something a little bit more recent.
So, City Administrator, I think all of us concur that we are not interested in going the election route.
Thank you, Mayor.
Another question. There is also a selection process by the council to go ahead and have an interview vote, right?
Yeah, I'll discuss with you now, with the city attorney's assistance, what some of your choices are. You do have, therefore, as an alternative to doing an election, you have the ability to appoint a member. We do not have, there is not a standardized method that you could, that we have to follow, and basically you have some amount of flexibility within your rights as to how you want to proceed with doing that. As you've mentioned, for instance, it is on the most abbreviated version, if you decided here tonight that you had someone that you wanted to appoint, and 3 of the 4 of you could agree on that appointment, assuming it was a person who meets the qualifications of being someone who's at least 18 years old, is a registered voter and registered to vote within the city of Lompoc, and is indeed has a principal residence within the city limits of Lompoc. If 3 of the 4 of you agree on such a person, and that person is willing to accept your appointment, we are prepared to have them to complete an oath of office that's been prepared, that has the name blank that we can fill in, and administer the oath of office as we just did for the 3 of you, and have them sign, have them take a seat in the vacated seat here, and we'll commence with our business. Aside from that, if you don't have such a situation tonight where at least three out of the 4 of you agree on such an appointment, then I'd be recommending that you at least decide tonight what procedure you plan to follow to make that appointment. We offered in our staff report one possibility for that. And the possibility that we offered up was that you could choose to identify an application period where people would self-nominate, if you will, again, assuming they meet those qualifications. And you could set that, as we gave an example, if you wanted to expedite this process, you could say today on December 2nd that we're going to open up a time period in which to receive applications. So we have an official application form we would use that people would collect from and return to the clerk. You could set the time period. For example, the example we gave in the staff report was you could designate starting tomorrow, December 3rd through December 9th, with those applications being due back to the clerk, completed properly by December 9th. And for us, it's a pretty simple process of identifying their qualifications, maybe a brief paragraph about saying why they're interested in serving on city council, and then if they wish to attach a resume or something to that, they could. In the past, you've used a little more extensive, we tried to come up with something that's pretty simple and straightforward. You can have a more extensive application if you wanted, but the idea there is if you do something in that expedited of a time frame, then we'd be able to return at the next meeting on the 16th. We would have been able to publish those applications and have them as part of your agenda packet on the 16th. And we could reserve time in the December 16th meeting for you to invite those nominees up and to have them make brief statements. If you had any questions you wanted to ask them, you could. And then we'd proceed again with a process of nominations and votes until we found someone that received at least 3 of your votes. And again, we'd be prepared at that meeting to administer an oath of office and to be able to seat the member. Those are just a couple of possibilities available to you. There are other things if you wanted to take a longer amount of time or you wanted to have a more intense selection process, or you wanted to confer in a different way. You've got some options available to you. Mr. City Attorney, I don't know if you have more to add to that.
The only thing I'd like to add is all of the consideration and the whole process would be a public process. This isn't like an employee where you could go into a closed session to evaluate the different people. It's all in the public process.
And the one other thing I'd add to that, too, is ultimately it does take at least 3, if not all 4 of you, then at least 3 of your votes. A 2-2 is a tie and does not move the council.
If we have a 2-2 all the way through January 31st, we're going to an election.
Correct.
Does anyone have any, before we go to public comment, does anyone have any questions for the city attorney or the city administrator? Okay, seeing nothing from the council, I'll open this up to public comment. And the public comment you can include if you have a comment on the election, even though that we have sort of decided that we're not going to go with the election process. If someone feels strongly that we should still go to an election, please let us know. That doesn't mean that we can redirect city staff to go to the election process. So, step forward. You have up to 5 minutes to voice your opinion on anything we bring forward. No one has an opinion on this. Here we come. Okay. And when you come up, just state your name.
Terry Hammonds, good evening, Council. I'm going to make this short and to the point. I am requesting one of you nominate Anne Rouget to fill the vacant position on the Council. This is the most reasonable decision. She received the 3rd highest popular votes for the Council position. She is qualified, served on the City Council, Planning Commission, numerous community service organizations, and this will avoid the unreasonable efforts of applications, special election, and interim appointment. This will not be popular to everyone, but it avoids the delay and fills the position now. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammonds. Does anyone else? Okay, please step forward.
Pam Waller, local resident. I will support what Terry Hammonds just said and Councilmember Holmdahl to make a decision tonight. You have a lot on your plate, serious business to be conducted. I've sat through Planning Commission where it was 4 people, split vote, so it came to you. How are you going to conduct business if you have 2-2 votes? Who do you go to? Who does anybody go to conduct business? So I would also support Anne Rouget, and I will tell you why. This isn't a popularity contest. It isn't about personalities. We need the best person on the council. She has the qualifications that we need for the council and need to move ahead. She has been a city council member in the past, so she has that experience. She doesn't have a big learning curve for that. And I know people are throwing out LHCDC, and she was on the council. Well, I'll remind 2 of you, you were too during that process. Yes, Mr. Holmdahl? Oh, no, maybe you weren't. You weren't on it? Oh, okay. But she also has planning commission experience, and we're trying to get through the general plan. Now, I'm pleased to see that Victor Vega is on the council because he knows zoning, and he has the real estate experience, and that's vital to this council and to moving forward. I'm sure everybody's read the history of these events in Lompoc, 3-ring circus. We do not need to be entertained. we need to be led. So I would ask you to please, select Anne Rouget, and let's get on with business. Also, she was the third highest vote getter, and you need to listen to the public. You're all sitting there because we put you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wall. Someone else? Anyone else? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment. Okay, public comment is closed. We're going to bring it back to the council for discussion. Councilmember Starbuck.
Last summer, I saw an article in the Parade magazine by a lady named Marilyn Voss Savant. It's called Ask Marilyn. And what caught my eye on the Ask Marilyn column last summer, anticipating being in this position now, or contingency to be, says, say there are 8 candidates for 4 positions. What's the fairest voting procedure? Well, obviously that wasn't our situation here. Our situation here was 2 votes for 2 council seats. Now we find ourselves in a position to select a third. What is the fairest voting procedure? Everybody says third highest vote getter. Mind you, in a plurality voting, which we do because we are not a majority, we are breaking it out over 3 candidates, third highest vote getter is not a representation of the voting. The only fair way to assume third highest vote getter in an election like this would be what they call a preference ballot. 8 people ran, you rank them 1 through 8. All votes would come out, you would run that. Somebody that came, you would have the ability. The least effective, but the one that would possibly work for us at that point would have been vote for 3 on the contingency that Mayor Lingle won the election. We would have had the third seat clearly defined. Mathematically, it's insolvable. I can tell you that I've read Peter Tannenbaum's Modern Math Excursions, Chapter 1, which deals with modern social voting. I've spoke with all the college people I can find. There is no logical formula to assume who the third highest vote getter is because of the fact that you voted the top 2. So that's kind of taken it off the table. This is not a slight against Anne Rouget or any of the other candidates. It was just the voting procedure was not established prior to establish a third person as a majority or a top vote getter. So what do you do in that case? Well, obviously, the council doesn't want to select the representation for you. The common right thing to do would be to put it out to ballot and have a vote and let the voters decide who they want to fill the third-year seat. Fiscal responsibility and time and a 2-year election come into mind. It's really not bad. It's not good at that cost to do this. This will drag us out into August again. The appointment process. Yes, I read the Lompoc record. Yes, I've seen it. Every time the city council tries to do an appointment, it becomes, like you say, entertainment and a circus. It's politics and personal preferences and everything else that happens. One of the thoughts that comes to my mind on this is the school board has appointed twice as many people to the board as the council has appointed council members, leading me into a question of ex-school board members. What is your process? What is your procedure? And how come you announce it in a press release? There's no contingency. It's been a very transparent and everybody understood what was happening. I pulled and I asked the school district and they sent me their little policy procedure. I personally think it would be the most fair, the most transparent, most expedient, and it will give the members of the council a chance to at least represent you on a 5th seat, and that's the way that I would like to lean.
Anyone else have a comment? Thank you, Councilmember Starbuck. You know, no matter what we do this evening or throughout this process, we're going to be criticized. Whether we appoint tonight, whether we, if we went to a ballot and we spent the $166,000, we go to an application process, we will be criticized by some for the process we take. So what I want to suggest, well, not suggest, I think we all realize that we want to select a person that best fits the needs of the city, not someone that fits our needs. Just like we up here were elected by you, the public, by you, the voters, because you thought we best fit your needs. We should look at what got us elected. Okay, most of us up here ran on economic development, public safety, transparency, open government. So the person we want to choose should have these qualities, because that's why we are sitting here today. We also need to look at the people that were rejected and try to figure out why they were not elected. Well, not rejected, but why they were not elected. What qualities did they not have that you wanted? We've already eliminated the special election as being too costly, too time-consuming. And I appreciate Councilmember Starbuck's comment about the mathematical equation of the third highest vote getter. But there are a lot of people in the public. We've all received opinions from people throughout the community, emails, telephone calls, word on the street, that there is a perception out there that Anne Rouget is the logical choice. That being said, I would like to make a nomination this evening, and I'd need a second, and then we'll vote on it. I'd like to make a nomination of appointing Anne Rouget to fill the second seat.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have some discussion on this? Okay.
Bob, with the discussion on hand, she does have time on the council. It would be like bringing somebody in new that didn't have any background of work on the council. And I know she's got some negatives, and we all do. And I think that getting it done tonight, to me, is what I've been wanting to. I had a lot of time and study on it, and get it done as quick as possible. We have so much on our table going into Christmas. I can support her.
Thank you, Councilmember Amdahl. And I just want to remind the council of what we're looking for. Again, what put us up here, what the public, what they saw in us. Do or does Ms. Rouget have the same qualities that put us up here? I think we need to ask ourselves, is she in support of economic development? I can tell you that when Anne was on the council, she was one of the people behind a predecessor of the Economic Development Committee, the 2020 plan, which was sort of the forerunner to our Economic Development Committee. She has been a supporter of public safety. I believe when she ran several times, she was supported by both the police and the fire. So she does have some of the qualities that put us up here. So, unless there's any further discussion, Councilmember Starbuck.
Yeah, like I say, I think all that we're doing right now is you of campaigning for, and I personally am thinking that this is really just kind of an illusion of democracy that we're trying to do right now. I probably won't support this because I would like to see us go through with the appointment process.
Okay. Any other, yes, Councilmembers?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lynn. I also think that being transparent.
Oh, hold on a second.
Mayor, sorry, Mayor, sorry. That was good.
That's okay.
Yeah, I heard that too many
times. That's one
times.
strike.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I just think the democratic and transparency process. Also, I do agree with the nomination process and moving forward with the application process is what I would go for also.
Okay.
Gives us more choices and more, and we get to hear everybody one more time instead of being sidelined to one way.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so there we've got a motion and a second to nominate Anne Roger to the 5th seat. Let's vote. Okay, that fails 2-2. Bring it back to the council for further discussion on how we want to proceed. Now, we still have some more options. We could, if someone has another idea of someone else they want to appoint, we could take that idea this evening, or we could direct city staff to go forward with an application process. Any further any further discussion? And yes, Councilman Starbuck.
No, I totally agree with that. I mean, I would very much invite Ms. Anne Roger to apply and anybody else. I don't think that we would want to do it on the 16th. Based on the number of applications we may receive or whatever, I think that a special meeting, possibly December 20th during the day on a Saturday, where we could take care of business, and that would be the settling day. That would give staff enough time. Council will need to come up with questions that they would like to ask candidates. I think that we should let staff go ahead and take care of the application.
City Administrator, 16th versus the 20th. How does staff feel about that?
I serve at your pleasure. I can accommodate either date.
Okay, Council, 16th or the 20th. Speaking for myself, I'd prefer to get it going as soon as possible. I'd prefer the 16th, but Councilmember Vega.
Mayor Lingle, how you doing?
Thank
you.
I'm great.
You know, I prefer to get this thing.
Same, so
I prefer getting this done sooner than later, also. So basically, I'd support the 16th. Okay.
Councilmember Humdahl.
Well, if staff thinks they can get it all done by the 16th, we'll go with the 16th.
Okay. Councilmember Starbuck, do you have any more comments?
Well, the 16th appears to be a fairly light meeting, so, if staff can meet the 16th, I have no objection to it. I just thought that Saturday would be a better day to conduct this, depending on the number of applicants.
Okay.
And just to clarify, by the way, unless I hear differently, our preparation is merely going to be the collection of those applications and the publication of those applications, as opposed to doing background research or anything like that.
Correct. Then when, Councilmember Humdahl.
Staff, what you're talking about is the City of Lompoc Council vacancy application form is to be filled out and turned in.
Well, right now, what I'd be looking for, if that's the route you're going to, what we suggested, that I'd want you to, for instance, if this form or some form like it is acceptable to you, then we'll go ahead and use that or something like it. If you want more information, I noted in the past, for instance, when we had the mayor vacancy, there was a lot more extensive information. There was some desire, for instance, in that the application including having people identified where they worked, what their job was, and their employer address. If that's important information to you in making your decision, we should add that to the sample form. If that's not important to you, then we'll leave it off of there. So I need some understanding of if that form that's presented, which was about as simple and basic as we had, if that's adequate for you.
Okay. Councilmember Starbuck, you have some information there that the school board has used. Why don't you read that?
Well, what the school board has used, it's very different than what we would be asking. It's obviously related strictly to the Board of Education, but as to the form of what it is, right at the top it says, the process. So here we have the guidelines. The only concern that I really would have with this is the fact that in an interview process, you have to ask questions. We don't want to come in here, and batter around with questions. So I think that from the council's standpoint, we would need to have our questions ready for the 16th meeting. The rest of it could be handled by staff. I mean, if the application process, you know, I don't think we need somebody's employment. I don't think we need, you know, what they make. It's, you know, just a list. And, you know, part of this whole process here is a 5-minute introduction. Why would you like to accept an appointment to the council? Why do you feel you are qualified to sit on the council? You know, various things.
Councilmember Vega.
Mayor Lingo? Getting used to that.
There you go.
Sorry. You know, I really do think someone's background is important because that is life experience. You know, I think we should know a little bit about somebody, you know, as far as, I think it's important just to know what they bring to the table. It's part of the questioning process. It cuts a lot of questions out, you know, and then, so anyway, that's my feeling.
Okay. And I agree. I would say that you get the primary information, just make sure they're 18 years old, registered voter, live inside the city limits, and then I'd say even attach a little resume that we can read. Yeah, right. What they've done in the past. Well, a resume is usually 1 page. Mine is, anyway.
Very small print.
I write real small. So, no, just, I think a resume that we can see, especially if they've been involved in the community, what committees they've served on. So I'd say attaching a resume to their application. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. And then as far as questions, you know, well, let's see, 3 of us have just been through a number of forums that there was a lot of thought put into questions we asked during the forums. So why don't we look back at the questions we were asked during the forums? There were a lot of questions that were directly related to what this person was going to bring to the city council. It talked about economic development. It talked about the vision that they have for the city. It talked about youth activities. Let's look at these questions and select, we can each individually select maybe 2 or 3 of these questions, because some of us may select the same one. Maybe select up to 5. And then each of us will have an opportunity to ask several of these questions. But those questions, there's a lot of thought put in those questions. And we were elected in somewhat based on the questions that were asked. Is that okay with everyone here, that we take a look at the questions that were asked of us at the forum? That gives us a basis to ask them the questions we want to ask. Councilmember Starbuck.
Well, I'd support that, but I still think that a little individuality, you know, in forming your own questions would be part of it, too.
Yeah, of course, you can still do that. Okay. Anything else?
Well, the next question I had then is, if we go down this route, do we want to go ahead, the guidance that staff had put in their report here, December 3rd through the 9th, would you like to follow this timeline?
If indeed we are going to return to you on the 16th for you to consider it, it rather compels that our deadline for having these returned would be right at December 9th so that we can publish for you by December 10th. At the latest.
Councilmember Vega.
Mr. City Administrator, I was just saying, are these timeframes doable? It sounds like they are. They're not too aggressive, I mean, for us to get it done, because I'd rather do it sooner than later, and if they can be done, hey.
For staff, we're able to do that because, as I said, it's going to be a matter of us being available to hand out, then receive during the regular clerk's business hours those applications, and then we're just compiling the information and publishing it for you so that you have it days in advance, and the public will see it as well. But you'll be able to see it so that you can review those and be prepared as you come into the meeting on the 16th. But again, for that to happen, the 9th's kind of our latest deadline.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck. Councilmember Humdahl.
So you'll get it yet one of these days. No, I think what we have going right now and the idea to get it done, my biggest concern has been, as we started, to get it done and get it over, because we got so much on our plate beginning of the year and everything else. So I would say this will work out fine. We'll have our own questions they need to fill out. We don't need a 3-page, 4-page background. All we need is what you like, but mainly they have to go ahead and say why they are running. What's the main kicker on and what do they plan to bring to the council?
So the application, they're going to fill out the application, and we'll ask the question why, and they'll attach a resume. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
And so I understand that, these questions that you talked about at forums and your own questions, then you as council members are taking responsibility for developing those. We'll handle the form and the amassing of the information. And if I've heard you correct, in addition to the sample form that we had, you would like attached to it a resume, a one-page resume that discusses their experience, including, I guess, career experience and community service experience.
Correct, yes. And I guess,
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that you limit the number of pages of the resume.
1 page.
okay,
Very good.
yeah. Councilmember Vega.
Mayor Lingle, as long as we still retain the option of asking our own individual questions,
Yes.
I hate to be all boxed in, because that's not why we're here. We're going to be open-minded, so we can allow everybody to do it in their own fashion, but I'd like to be able to ask our own questions.
You absolutely will. And this was just sort of a guideline. These questions were already prepared. There's some thought put into it. Yes, you will still be able to ask your own questions. Realize that we should ask the same question to every candidate then. We won't just ask candidate one, your one question. We'll ask each of the candidates the question if you have it. Now, the question I have for the rest of the council, should we get these questions to the city staff by the 9th, just like the application, so they could compile the questions for us, and we could have one set? City Minister, would that work for you?
I think that's what he said. That'll work for us. I would like to ask the city attorney, do you anticipate those questions then should be given as a result of some collaboration from the council members? Those should be included within the production of the agenda packets.
What I heard was that each council member is going to come up with a list of, I'm not sure if there's a limited number of questions you're suggesting that each council member come up with. All those questions from each of the four are going to be given to you, and then if there's any repetitious questions, those won't be included, but every other question will just be brought back to the council, and on the 16th then, they'll decide who's going to ask which of those questions.
Okay, so that will not be part of the publication with the packet then?
Unless they get it back to you on the 9th.
If I have it by the 9th, well, it doesn't seem to me that the timing of their returning has to do with the question of do we include it in the packet or not? Because let's say they don't get it to me till the 13th.
You know, I'd rather not have the questions included in the packet. Okay. I find it when we are presented with questions ahead of time, it's not really what we really feel what we do. I'd rather be able to ask the candidates the question the evening of the 16th, rather than having the questions prepared ahead of time and given to them.
So each council person will come on the 16th with their own list of questions.
In that case, I would recommend you
Okay.
keep those as individual projects and not forward to those to me.
Okay. Okay, so how many?
Were you going to discuss the number of questions?
Yes, that's what I was
each
going to do
person
right now, yeah. So how many questions do each of you feel comfortable with?
No more than 5.
Remember, there's 4 of us asking questions. We're going to have unlimited number of people applying. Let's say we have 10 people applying. We're going to ask each candidate 5 questions. So let's, Councilmember Starbuck said 2 questions from each of us.
I have no problem with
Councilmember Vega? Okay, so we'll each prepare, I'm sorry.
Turn your microphone.
If you don't
More
use the
than 2.
mic, then it
Gotcha.
doesn't pick up on the broadcast.
Okay, so we'll come prepared
Gotcha.
with 2 questions. And there, yeah, that'll be a total of 8 questions per candidate. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to decide. We've just interviewed let's say there's 10 people. We've interviewed them, we've seen the resume. They've spoke to us, we've asked the questions. How do we want to then decide? Is someone going to nominate? Is that the way you want to go? We've got 10 people there. Councilmember Starbuck, let's say he likes candidate number 3. And you'd make a nomination to appoint.
I would have to nominate, it would have to be second, and then a third vote received in order for that candidate to
Correct.
win.
Okay, and does everyone understand that? Now, we need to, I would like to discuss, because it's a little unfair, the person that makes the first nomination. The first person that makes the nomination, there's a real advantage to that. Let's say it's here against candidate number 3. 2 of us don't want to necessarily vote against that person, even though that's not our favorite candidate. So is everyone comfortable with your own feelings, that you're going to really stick to your own feelings, that if you don't like candidate number 3, you're not going to worry about hurting that person's feeling, you're going to wait for you to nominate candidate number 5?
Well, Mayor Lingle, what would be the options here?
Well, the option would, there really isn't an option, because I know in 2009, we had a terrible process where we drew numbers out of a hat, and I would not recommend that.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes.
another option would be to have a ballot that has, we'll know who the people are that are submitting their applications. You could have a ballot that lists all, if it's 10, lists all 10 people, and the first ballot goes, and if no one gets 3 votes on the first ballot, you have a second ballot.
Excellent.
You have
Excellent.
a third ballot.
Let me.
Okay, so city staff, as soon as I get done with Councilmember Starbuck, I'll ask you a question. Councilmember Starbuck.
I'm going to offer a solution. Yeah, well, this is a very simple way to do a process of elimination. 10 candidates. Each council member, 3 marks, and I'm following this process. Those with the most marks make the cut. It's public. I say I like candidate 3, 5, and 7. You like candidate 3, 2, 9. Candidate 3, 4, 8. Candidate you like 3. 3's got 4 marks. 3 would win. If there's ties, then everybody else, you break it out. It's a very simple process that would be up on the board, and we could eliminate and proceed right from there. It's right here.
How is that different? I mean, I understand we're each picking 3. How is that much different than what city attorney just said, where we just list them 1 through 10?
Get 3 votes.
And we take, the person that has the highest number of votes, we vote on that one. If it doesn't get 3 votes, we go to number 2. Is that?
The difference is that in this process, you could go ahead and eliminate, reduce, and go to your balloting easier, or you could do what you're saying right now, which is basically a ranking. If you've got 30 people apply, you're going to rank 1 to 30. If you just go with the mark system, only 3 of those people will receive the mark from you as a councilman. We don't know what is going to happen until the 9th. If we have 3 people, then obviously marking 3 is not going to work.
Yeah.
But if you have 30 people, marking 3 will eliminate and be able to go into a balloting after that.
This process has been used before, and it has worked. So I'm in favor of, go ahead and going forward with that.
Well, it sounds good to me. It's the same thing I do when I go to a judging contest of wine. And the final 4 lines, and that's how we judge them. We go there and put our dots on the one we like the best, and who has the most points when we get through with that bottle of wine wins. And so I'll be doing that in January. That's what I do every year for the last 11 years. So.
Okay. So Councilmember Starbuck, for staffs, so they can prepare something, explain how we're going to do this. We're going to list every candidate. City staff will prepare a list for us. We're going to rank them. And no, we're not going to rank them. We're going to pick our top 3.
Right.
Okay,
And, you know, I mean, it would be a very verbal process. You would say that I like the young man with the black glasses and the handsome guy next to him. Those are my 2 top, and then I like her. Those are my 3 marks.
And this process has worked.
Well, it's worked for them the whole time. And, you know.
And just for clarification, and then each of you pick 3, and then those on the list that got at least 3 votes go into another set.
You could very easily possibly pick the person that, if somebody received 4 marks, that makes it an anonymous, then you could move your motion. And the same if somebody received 3. So you could settle it just based upon the marking. What it would do is they'll give you the final cut, so to speak.
You know, I'm afraid we're going to be written up in the Lompoc record in about 4 years. Yeah. So, Councilor Starbuck, I appreciate it. I know it's been used before, but unless, I'd like to hear from the rest of council members. I think I'd like to go with the ranking system, where we just each have a ballot, and we list them 1 through whatever, and then we'll choose, do we want to choose the top 3, top 4, and then we could vote on those again.
I'm fine with it. I'm just offering solutions.
Yes, I'm fine with that also.
Okay, so that's what we'll do.
All right.
I do.
So what we're doing, thank you, is we're going to, as I understand it, you're establishing an application period for December 3rd through December 9th. We're going to have a 1-page application where that the self-nominating candidates are to fill out and return. They may attach a 1-page resume that covers their practical and community service experience. And then we will also develop, in addition to publishing all of this for you, we'll develop a ballot with all the names listed of those that are qualified nominees. And then we'll be prepared, I guess, with a whiteboard or something so that we can do tabulation on it at the meeting. Do we have that covered? Good. Great.
City Attorney, you look confused.
The ballot you described on, each of you would fill out numerically the 1 through 10, who you thought the top was and who you thought the 10th was. That wasn't what my idea was, but that's fine if that's what you want to do. I just thought my suggestion was to have a ballot that has 10 people, and each of you pick one of the 10. And if there's 4 that are, if anyone receives 3, that person's going to get elected. If each of you pick 4 different ones, that's the next set of ballot of those 4 people. So unless someone gets a vote on the first one, they're not going to get the second ballot. And eventually, you'll have a 2-2, and then there'll be 2 people left. And then someone will have to decide to change, possibly. Sure, maybe you understood. I couldn't wrap my head around
No, actually, I've heard what they said, and I hadn't been speaking up, but actually you and I are on the same wavelength. And to reiterate what the attorney provided there, let's say, again, hypothetically, I have 10 candidates. At the conclusion of the interviews, each of you, if you wanted to go this way, would have 1 vote. And that's either going to yield 4 names or less that receive votes. And as the attorney pointed out, if 3 of you, if 3 or all 4 of you agree on one, you in essence are casting your ballot, you seat that person. If there is, if there are votes for 3 or 4 different candidates, then you exclude, for your second ballot purposes, you've excluded all those that have not received a vote on the first ballot, and now you've narrowed it down to either, at that point, 2, 3, or 4 candidates, and you may vote again. Now, maybe it's still 4 different votes for a while, or maybe there's some movement. You still have the opportunity to hit a stalemate, if you will, or an impasse on that, or you can progress. And you always at any point can opt to take a different scoring system than that, but that's one way you could tee it up initially if you're looking at a large field and at least trying to get it to a small field. That approach will help you narrow the field faster than other approaches.
My problem, I understand it. My problem with that is, let's say, again, we have the 10 candidates. We each select 4 different people. We bring back, now there's 4, the other 6 sit down. We have 4 people standing there. And now, the way I understand it, we'd vote again. And let's say we each still stick with our 4 candidates. This could go on forever. Okay, I mean, if I'm set on number 3, Councilmember Staubach is set on number 1, and it could really go on forever. How do we get around that?
And I'd point out it really can go on forever, because the city clerk and I were doing some math. For instance, when you talk about doing your 2 questions apiece, we ask 8 questions. Assuming you limit it, question and answer is about 3.5 minutes long. It's half an hour per candidate. You have 10 candidates. You've got 5 hours just on questioning. We haven't even gotten to balloting yet. And then there's the issue that we have in our mind about, are you comfortable with the fact that your questions will be heard by, somebody's hearing it while they're in the hot seat, while 9 others are hearing it and getting to prepare their responses. So,
yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way all the forums go, and we'll rotate.
Yeah, right. And so maybe there is, as much as you didn't want to pull numbers out of a hat, maybe at least to the order of how you ask questions, maybe you want to do that.
So I appreciate the input, but in my opinion, I think we could be sitting here with a stalemate for many votes. If I'm dead set on one candidate and everyone else is dead set on theirs, we could sit here for a long time. So, the opinions of the other 3, how do you feel about each of us selecting one and having 4 people up there, and the possibility of going on forever? Councilmember Holmdahl.
You may have 4 and you could have 3. You don't know what
right.
it's going to be. Your worst case is 4. We may have to think of something else, but we've got that. At least we're moving the process along. And I don't know what else you're going to do.
Well, I'm sorry. The other thing, if we have, again, we have 10 candidates, and we rank them, 1 through 10. We give them a rating. Okay, candidate number 3 is my number 1 choice. Candidate number 4 is my number 2 choice. We take a break. We add up these numbers, and this could be a 1 ballot thing. Candidate number 3 gets 7 number 1s, and that could be our candidate right there. If it's the highest number that person attains.
My thinking as you go to it doesn't say they have to vote on all 10. If you got 10 people there, you only got 1 vote, and pull that one out and see who 4 of the 4 that come out of there, and then you go ahead and go from there.
Councilmember Starbuck, explain that system one more time to us.
What would happen? We'll use the standard phrase of 10 people. Each council member, now we're doing marks, not ranking. Just a dot, so to speak, on the wine bottle. This would be Mr. Vega will have 3 dots that he can put on 3 names of the 10 candidates. The same thing would go with Homdahl here. He would do 3 of his. You would choose your 3, I would choose my 3. At that point, you have a breakout now. You could have 4 dots on one person. It's a done deal. You could have 3 dots on one person. A done deal. If the dots are scattered, then you go back in and you have a choice at that point. If there's 4 people, you will only be able to do 2 marks or 2 dots. And you keep breaking it down. The way that this process ends is in the event of a 2-2 vote, you will continue the process of discussing, nominating, and voting until a final decision is made. You have to, at some point, do something to settle it. It's not going to magically happen. You hope it does. I hope it will. But there's always the possibility. It's the same enigma with voting. It's a non-calculable formula.
You know, this system has been used.
It's been used a lot. That's
and it
why
works, and it works. Yeah. And it seems like it's the least confusing of all the other options that we've come up with. So, is everyone in agreement that we? Yeah. Is that? Give it to.
Yeah, yes. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay. I do have a question, though.
Yes.
I do have a question. You know, after this ballot process or this mark process, or to eliminate by process of elimination, do we also, are we going to go vote on it again and as a consensus, or this is the election, is this the ballot, so to speak, and that's going to prevail?
Because we will be voting, each time you put your dot on those 3 candidates, the pool will narrow smaller and smaller, and so we are voting at that point.
So no mind changing, I guess, huh? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So is this the process we decided we want to use?
Okay.
Okay. City Administrator?
So using the 3-dot process, just so that I'm prepared, I want to make sure I have the materials right for you. So we'll still have the ballot ready for you, because the ballot's going to accommodate any number of approaches, including this one. The other aspect of what we need is need a big dry erase board or something where we can, I assume you're talking about putting your dots on your ballot individually, unencumbered. We'll collect those and we'll put the results up on the board, right?
Correct.
That would be one way, or we could verbally say it, just so the public will know. I mean,
okay. I'll probably have a board prepared.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now let's just talk a little bit about the amount of time we spend on each question and the number of questions, because the city administrator just pointed out, if we have 10 candidates, we're each asking 2 questions. We're each asking 2 questions of every candidate. Did you say that's a 5-hour process?
At 3 to 3.5 minutes per question and answer, and 10 candidates, that's a 5-hour process, 20 candidates, 10 hours.
Okay. Councilmember Starbuck, I thought you had something.
I earlier had mentioned on a Saturday, the 20th, for this. If we received over 10 people, we will be right in there at the 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to settle this. I really believe that when you are going to conduct an interview, or we're going to look at at candidates, so to speak, everybody should have an introduction. And 3 to 5 minutes, state your name, why, who, You go in, you say, okay, we're going to do 2 questions. The response will be 1 minute each. And then, a 1 minute closing. But I really would feel so much better if we had, where we could come in here on a Saturday, 9 o'clock. We're going to start, we'll open the meeting, and we work through it until we're done. And not come in here 1900s or, 7 o'clock at night and stay forever.
What Saturday are you looking at? December 20th. 9 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor, not that I'm essential, but I can't make it on the 20th, so I'll have to have someone else from my office be here.
Okay. Are you applying? Okay, well, I'm hoping it doesn't drag out for hours. The number of questions, the number of times, let's say 2 questions, maximum 2 minutes each. 2 minutes each. Okay, Saturday the 20th.
You know, could I just throw an option out here? I'd like to maybe give city administrator and staff the flexibility. If I think that in the common sense world, if we only have 4 applicants, they could arrange the time schedule to suit. If you can compute it. If we have 30 applicants, then they know that we would need to condense the time. You know, you would be the first ones on scene to see what's going on. The 9th, you say, okay, we've got 9 people, and this is how long. And you know, you could kind of set the guidelines for us on that.
Certainly, and it just looks to me like the tendency in that case is the more the applicants, probably the more you're going to rely on that application and their resume, and the less by necessity we're going to have to rely on an interactive Q&A process just for manageability purposes. As you pointed out, if we're talking about on the 16th, we have, it's not a particularly heavy agenda, but we still have a regular meetings agenda with business to take care of. And starting at 7, and assuming we could wipe out all other business in real fast fashion, you're still starting, you know, this process 8:30, something like that. And if really we're involved in the types of levels of questioning we're talking and the number of candidates, yeah, we wouldn't be resolved probably before midnight. So
Okay, so we'll call it the 3-dot system. Maximum, or 2 questions for each candidate.
I have a question too, sir.
2 minutes for each question. Saturday the 20th, starting at 9 a.m. Councilmember Vega?
I have a question, Mayor Lingle, if I could. Okay, does this process have to be so boxed in and so the interview process is like that? I mean, can't we not, again, go to a process where we're already going to have a resume, these people want the job and everybody's looking for it, and we're trying to be as accommodating as possible. Let them come to us and kind of give their spiel on their background a little bit and why they'd like to have it. And if we all reserve the right to ask a question, I mean, wouldn't that speed the process up?
Sure.
Instead of
So you're
going
saying
2 or 3 questions?
You're saying eliminate the question, but if you have a question, city administrator or city attorney, would we be required to ask the same question to every candidate?
There's no legal requirement for that.
I just think that would be a more expedient process, because we could do it within the confines of that council meeting also and get her done. You know what I mean, so to speak. Let everybody come up and do it. We're going to have the resume. If we have any questions on that, we should be able to reserve our right to ask that question if possible, and then we just move on instead of doing it like a forum, which could take all night. I just think it's a long-winded way of doing it.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Well, I'm just going to say that in the effort of fairness, it would be fair that everybody gets the same questions so they can be evaluated upon the response. It's, you know, if you start singling out one person for 4 questions and the next person comes in and presents themselves and no questions, is that really a fair evaluation? I think that you need to make it even, consistent, and open all the way across, that everybody's treated the same.
Councilmember Vega.
Yeah, Mayor Lingle. Well, then let's just across the board just put one question out there. I mean, you know what? Let's just cut to the chase. That's what we're here for. Let's get on with business and let these guys step up to the plate. We're giving them the opportunity instead of nominating. Let's just make it happen, guys. You know, that's what I'm saying.
When you say one question, we're going to ask a single question to all candidates?
I'm just following Councilman Starbuck's lead, how do we get this thing done in a more expedient manner, okay? Unless you guys are stuck on 2 questions, that's, you guys will have to let me know.
I'll offer a quick solution here. Truthfully, I believe that the city administrator and the attorney could come up with a process based upon the number of applicants. If it's a huge number of applicants, obviously the one single question, 1 minute response or whatever would be the right way to do it. If there's 5, applicants, then, maybe a little bit more time could be spent on it. I'm going to use the judgment of staff on this, and then it'll be up to us to make the right decision with it.
Okay. Let me see if I can kind of get us all together right here. Yeah, right. Okay, so we're going to have people have an application. They're going to submit a resume. We're going to read the resume. We're going to know quite a bit about these candidates as it is. Let's allow them to give a 2-minute statement as to why they want to serve on the city council. Okay. If one of us or all of us have a question of, and I understand Councilmember Starbuck's concern that we're only asking a question to candidate number 3 and not anyone else. But based on their resume and based on their comments as to why they want to serve on the city council, we need some clarification of candidate number 3. So yes, one of us could ask the question of candidate number 3. Maybe we don't have any questions. We've got the resume in front of us. We know what they've done. They've made a comment to us, 2 or 3 minutes, and then we choose from there. Would that be acceptable? So no questions, no prepared questions. Councilmember Vega.
Yes, I think that would be the quickest way to get around that. And let them make their presentation.
Okay. Okay.
And are we back to the 9th or the 16th because of that, or are we still on the 20th?
Hold on a second. Use the microphone.
I would wait and see what the numbers are coming in. We could have 4, we could have 10. If we've got 10, then we may have to go to Saturday. If we have 4, we can do it on 16th. It'd be up to Patrick to see how we put that together. In other words, we got an agenda package going on. We're going to have to do on the 16th. How long that's going to take, you'll know that pretty quick. Well, at least by the end of the week. And then we could go ahead and make the determination if it's Saturday or if it's Tuesday.
Is anyone opposed to the Saturday? I mean, if it's only 4 candidates, we're going to be in and out of here by noon anyway. Let's just set it for Saturday the 20th. Okay. Okay, let's set it for Saturday the 20th.
Saturday the 20th, 9 a.m.?
9 a.m.
And we'll still stick, though, with the application period being December 3rd through December 9th. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so is it real clear to you, City Administrator?
Real clear. Yes.
Okay. Real clear to you? I think it'll work. Okay, so we are going to have that process on Saturday the 20th. City Administrator, do we have any, or cities, written communications?
Nothing.
Okay. This is your last opportunity for any oral communications. You have up to 2 minutes to tell us how terrible we did this evening.
Mayor Langer, distinguished members of the council. My name is Richard Drago. I live over here at 1327 Crown Circle. And give you a quick background on myself. I'm a Navy veteran, 3 deployments, Boeing for 30 years now, with 7 more deployments, the most recent being in October of 2011. Moved my family up here recently in July, buying a house over here at Crown Circle. I have a gym, which is a CrossFit gym that is adjacent to my house, that provides quite a bit of noise and vibration emanating from their gym when they're lifting and dropping their weights. The problem is I have a major issue with the amount of vibration and noise, and I have spoken with the owner of the gym itself. The person, Darren, is under the impression that this is a zoned industrial area and they can basically make as much noise as they well please, regardless of how close or where the houses are situated to their business. This is absolutely unacceptable. Being a member of the community here, I am I've had it basically up to here with the amount of traffic and noise I'm having to deal with. I've spoken with James Rasmussen on a number of occasions. He's also reported it. I've made a report to the police myself. As a courtesy, I didn't want to make it an emergency. But the amount, like I said, the amount is affecting both myself and my family and all the adjacent neighbors living within the surrounding area. So hopefully we can come to a resolution as to how we can eliminate the noise and vibration.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is James Rasmussen. I live at 1425 Crown Circle. I'm the builder of the project, and I actually lived in that house prior to selling it to Ron. I made a report with the city. The city took it to Planning Commission. They actually brought in a noise study, put it in my house for a week. That week was dead silent at the gym. Whoever at the city set it up told the gym, had to have. It went on for about 3 days afterwards. It was dead silent, and then it started again. I then went and pulled the conditions, the CUP conditions, and found that the gym was to install a second restroom, which they have 200 members, and they have one restroom. They had a year to put the second restroom in. Today, as of today, they still have never started construction on that second restroom. Lucille tells me that there's a planning commission hearing coming on that, which I think what they're going to do is they're going to allow the gym to only operate with the one restroom. And I don't get it. I guess what I'm seeing is there's 200 members of the community that's, getting your guys' votes, and so that is swaying the planning department to just look the other way. Well, the neighbors houses that I've sold to are just pulling their hair out. I mean, if you lived through it, which I did, Ron's comment to me was, I just want to go over there and drive my car right through the place. And I'm like, don't do that, call the police, do, what you got to do. But it's somebody, one of you guys has to help. Mayor Lynn came over, he listened to it. He couldn't believe it. It's unbelievable. Please help him. Please help the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rasmussen. Anyone else? Your last chance for public comment.
How you doing, Mayor Lingo, council members? My name is Christopher Reyes. I also live at Crown Circle, 1433, a few doors down from Rick. Same problem. It's the noise. It's 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, get home at night all the way to 9 o'clock, the thumping, the dropping of the weights, the music on the weekends. Try to be nice. We try to talk to them and maybe turn it down. Sounds like a concert on the weekends. So during the week, they'll have a competition where you'll hear thumping from 6 to 8:30, sometimes 9 o'clock at night. It's just, you wake up to it, you go to sleep to it, pretty much. When you try to relax after work, you hear dropping of weights. So, yeah, it's any way we can fix it, that would be greatly appreciated. We try to work with them and talk to them, but it seems like they just don't want to hear us or even work with us on anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, council requests, comments, and meeting reports. Councilmember Vega, your report should be pretty short.
It is, gosh.
Nothing to report?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Councilmember Holmdahl.
Yeah, I'd like to have a report back from planning staff and others on what we just got through hearing. Something just doesn't sound right, so I think we want to have that come back, what's going on, and then especially about that restroom. Even though they're going to the planning commission for a hearing, I'd like to have a report back what's going on. The one thing nobody brought up is we got a Christmas parade on the 5th, so be thinking about what's going on there. And then I had one other thing is, the decorations out here in the foyer was done by Mark Manger, if I got it right, Dan Smith, Sam Fast, and Lito Taban. But anyway, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm glad to see them do it. They came in and did it on the weekend on their own, not asking for anything in response, but I'm real nice. This is city staff coming in on Sunday, doing that beautiful job in there today. So that is the two things I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Starbuck.
No, I'm not going to make a report.
Okay. And what I'd request from the council in the future, we had nice brief reports. I know in the past we've reported that we saw a beautiful dog walking down the street and we went to the beach on Sunday. If we could keep our council reports to items that were of city importance, especially things where we're required to report things that we've been on city business where we spend city money. So we'll try to keep them short, and we can maybe continue to get out of here before midnight every night. So I also have no reports. I did not go to any meetings that I spent any city money on. However, I'd like to report that I will be out of town for the next 2 days. So I was just sworn in as mayor today, and I'm leaving town for 2 days. I'm going to an NCPA meeting, Northern California Power, which is our power company, up in Northern California for 2 days. I'll be back on Friday. So if there's nothing else, we are adjourned until a council meeting at 7 p.m. on December 16th.